Independent Grind, powered by Tech Nine.
Joining us on Independent Grind right now is Abhi The Nomad. How was your New Year's celebration?
It was good. I think we went downtown. I'm based out of Austin, so we went downtown to one of the bars here, and they had an event, and it was half off drinks and stuff, and I got really, really sick. I got the flu from that, but it was worth it. It was worth it.
I can't do bar New Year's anymore. I'm too old for. I can't. I get too tired too quickly.
I missed out. If I hadn't done it up until this point, so it was my first time doing one of those things with like a countdown and a DJ, and I was like, let's see what this is about. And you know what? It was fun while it lasted, and now I'm glad it's over.
So are you more of like a house party person, or do you go out to the bars a lot, or what's your sort of like going out scene like?
No, I'm a no party person. I don't really fuck with anyone. I just stay at home. I don't leave. I live with my girl, and we're homebodies. I have a cat, and so my life is pretty much like the studio, hanging out with my girl. Every now and then, I have a couple friends who I make music with, some dudes that I shoot with, feed my cat. And that's pretty much what I do.
The crazy rapper lifestyle.
Yeah, I know. People are always like super disappointed. Like anyone who comes to, check me out on tour, like some of my buddies or whatever, they'll come into the green room and it's just like really boring. And I'm just playing like Nintendo and everyone's just sitting around on their phones.
You're just showing them pictures of your cat.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you just mentioned tour. I know you were on tour last year. I guess we can just start there. How'd that go for you? What was that experience like?
It was great. It was my first, tour per se where I headlined, and I'd never done anything like it. So it was kind of like, testing the waters out a little bit. And, it was awesome, man. It was great to know and see in person that all these people were, messing with the music in these different parts of the States that I didn't know about. Mm-hmm. And I'd never been to these places either. So it was great for me. It was kind of like I got to sightsee at the same time.
What'd you learn? I'm curious what you learned, like going out for the first time. I'm sure you have like expectations and ideas of things. I guess what was like the biggest thing you learned? And then also, likewise, what was the biggest misconception you had about tour life?
The biggest misconception I had about it was that it would be easy. It's not easy at all. It's like kind of it's probably the most exhausting thing I've done in my life. It destroys you completely in and out because, you have, it's really just the little things. Like we didn't have a tour manager. So when we would fly into cities, sometimes the hotel wouldn't be open yet, or like, they wouldn't have our reservation fully open. You couldn't check in. And so we'd just have to sit around like with our bags in public places. This was like 6 a.m. and we had just played probably got done unloading off the stage at 1 or 2 a.m. last night, got 4 hours of sleep, flew over, and then now we're just sitting around, not even able to take a nap. And then we go back into the hotel room, and then, you're hungry, you eat, you're like, shit, I'm so tired. And before you know it, it's sound check, and then it starts all over again. So you kind of just lose yourself in having to do things. And that's not even in the cities where we had to do press and go out to radio events and, show up for things that, actually other stuff that mattered. Mm-hmm. So it's really just so tiring. But it's good. It's great practice. Like you learn definitely a lot of things about yourself and your performance and how you can, better yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure going out for the first time, like meeting fans and stuff. But what did you learn, whether about your fan base or about your own music, like stuff that worked live? What did you learn the most from this tour?
I think when it comes to my fan base, I learned that they're like, at least on the first tour, even though we sold out a couple shows, I feel like I could have brought out more people. But we definitely will moving forward. The one thing I learned is that my fans are like really kind of diehard. Like they'll come out just to see me, and they'll kind of dicks about like the opening acts and stuff. Like they'll show up late and like, you know, not want to see like any of the openers. But you know, they really go hard for that shit. They, you know, people rocking the merch, you know, knowing all the words. That's kind of, it's like a reaffirmation, you know, it's good validation for the work that I put in. Is physically seeing that person as opposed to something not as tangible, such as stream counts or like plays. Definitely.
How did it affect your music moving forward? Like now that the tour's done, did you get it back in the studio? Did you feel any different or try anything different?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm trying to, you know, make stuff that would go harder live and try to find a balance between that. Because I think on my last album, I definitely did have a couple tracks that are really great for live performances. I would say a few, but a lot of them I feel like are more emotional. So it's really just about kind of finding that balance between both of those styles of music so I can, you know, dominate not only digitally over streams and stuff, but also in the live market so that people want to come out and see the shows and have a good time. So I'm not like singing depressing ballads on stage. Not that there's anything wrong. I just don't know if that's my lane.
Right. Well, obviously a new one that I think would go really well on the live show is your new song Flush, which actually dropped today when we're recording the interview, but last week when the interview airs. Tell me sort of about this one. What's it like for you? I know it's different than like, you know, the stuff on Marble. What was this one? How'd you create this one?
So basically there's this, you know, I was trying to, you know, produce some stuff for like the last of these straight rap based singles that I had coming out. And, this random kid emailed me and he's like, yo, here's some beats, you know, like check these out or whatever. And, you know, note that I get like 150 of these emails probably like every week or some shit. So I listen to them. I listen to them all. And if I don't respond, it means it's trash. So this kid's beats were really, really dope. And then I hit him up on Instagram, you know, turns out he's a 17-year-old brown kid. Same, you know, descent, same area of India that I was from. So I was like, yeah, this is sick. So I, you know, linked up with him, and when he got me the beat, I asked him to send the stems over, and, you know, the words just came out naturally for me. It's a different process when you're not the one producing it, which is very rare. This is the first song I've released that wasn't produced by myself.
What was that?
So it was a different process.
What was that like for you, I guess? Because, like, I know it must be hard to sort of give up that, like, oh, I can tweak this or do that. Like, what was that experience like for you giving up the production?
It was a little bit free. It was a little bit freeing. I'd be a little more, you know, skeptical about album stuff. But since, you know, this was a single and I was like, all right, let's try this out. It was kind of freeing to not have to worry about the production aspect of it. And I could just go straight into writing and kind of focus on the words I'm saying right off the bat. So that's really what was kind of different for me.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned obviously doing production and stuff before. Which came first, sort of like the vocals or the production side?
It was definitely production and mixing. I'm very much like a mix engineer and a producer first in terms of what I like really spend a lot of my time doing and what I learned first. That's what I am. So that's what it was. And I think I'm, you know, slowly starting to, you know, fall in love with writing more and more and starting to, you know, try to switch up my process so I can see if it produces any different results or any interesting outcomes.
Mm-hmm. How'd you initially get into music?
I just had one of those, you know those really old MacBooks, like the white ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they used to be called iBooks.
Yeah.
I had one of those when I was in middle school. And so it had GarageBand on it, and I was always like a computer nerd. Like I loved like messing around with all the software and stuff. And so I just started messing around with GarageBand and like trying to remix other people's music. It was awful for like 8 years. And then I became good at it, I guess.
Do you ever go back to those old ones and listen to them?
Yeah, it's painful, man. I even have stuff that like mixtapes I released while I was in college, like freshman and sophomore year. And I had to scour the internet, every nook and cranny, and like delete, instances of shamefulness.
Kind of sounds like a challenge. I want to see if I can go find any of the old shit.
Oh, please don't.
What was the title of like your first mixtape?
So first ever, I used to call myself, when I first released music, it was just Abhi. And then I released music under the nickname Milkshake because I know it's ridiculous. I used to go to hang out at bars with my buddies, and I didn't drink. So I used to always get milkshakes. So they just kept calling me Milkshake. So I dropped a couple of mixtapes under the name Milkshake. And yeah, it's just a ridiculous story.
What kept you going there? Like, I mean, like, was there a moment where you sort of broke through and felt like you really were making like progress? Like, how did you stick with it?
I think that was when I really felt like I was like doing something worthwhile, was probably 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ever since the beginning, even in college when I joined, people would acknowledge that I was motivated and that I was a go-getter. But I never really heard people say, like, your music is really good, And I think that was something that was lacking for a long time. And around 2014, 2015, I kind of just honed it back down to what I know and what I wanted to do musically, and just said, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want. Mm-hmm. And that's when the best music I made at the time came to fruition. And then it was out on Spotify, and then it started slowly picking up numbers. Just organically, really. And I wasn't doing anything. I just put it out. And I was just like posting about it on like Facebook of all things. And, I guess it just started to make more and more sense in people's eyes as it went on.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to the new music, obviously Flush, you mentioned, and then you mentioned the few other singles you dropped, Feud, Lock, Booty, and Run. They all have like that cohesive feel. I'm talking like from the sound to the artwork, just sort of everything. I'm curious if you had this plan and this vision going into all the releases, or if this is something you sort of go with on the fly.
Well, I definitely plan to kind of market, brand, and package them a certain way. I really enjoy doing that. I do all the artwork because I do, I know Photoshop and InDesign, Illustrator, all that stuff. So I enjoy designing stuff and like making stuff and making packages out of things. So I knew I wanted to brand them like a different way so that those, 5 singles are going to be, part of this era of my music where I was just dropping like these loose rap singles so that it just kind of separates itself from the rest.
Mm-hmm. And
I like it when I like when, things are separated by like artwork and it's not just all over the place.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it was different. Like even the artwork is different. Marble has really its own vibe. And so in my like simple brain, that means I was like, oh, these came out like they were recorded after. Like, is that the case? Like, were you doing sort of hopping back and forth and had these ones sitting? What was it like switching gears sonically?
Well, yeah, they were definitely recorded after. I think I got a fair share of my my sweet tooth out in Marbled, which is like a lot of the more pop centric, catchy, sort of a little more, even though they were like darker themed, it was like a little more bubblier and like accessible music. And I kind of wanted to step away from that because I feel like I just kind of exhausted myself of that vibe for a while. And so I wanted to do more aggressive stuff, and that's where these singles kind of came in. Because I wanted to really rap my ass off for a little bit and just, showcase that because I haven't really done that before. Mm-hmm. And I think that it works. To some extent, it's working.
No, definitely. And yeah, I was curious though, experimenting like that, like you obviously said when you went on tour, your hardcore fans, like they knew the words, they knew like, so it's obviously like super heavy related to Marbled, but it's it's interesting, like experimenting, but also trying to give fans like a consistent feel. Is that something you're conscious of, or do you not even sort of concern yourself with that? You just
Yeah,
sort of like,
it is. It really is. That's a big, a lot of people ask me this question, and I really don't have a good answer for them, because I think it's something that artists battle with throughout their entire careers.
Mm-hmm.
Are they making music for themselves? Are they making it for their fans? Or are they making it to potentially draw in new fans? I really don't know. Like, I think I was kind of dipping my toes in the water with this stuff, with these rap singles, and that when I released Marbled, I was really just sort of what they say in my bag. I was in my, safe place, and that sort of music is what I feel comfortable usually releasing. And this was kind of very much more like left of that. And I wanted to try this out and see what people thought of it. And it's great because they're singles, so it allows me to kind of do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I go back into when I'm back in album mode right now, and there's definitely more thinking about, appealing to fans and appealing to myself at the same time, and finding a healthy balance is really the toughest thing.
Mm-hmm. How different is your process in album mode versus like single mode?
It's really one thing that I've always stuck by is test of time. So I will make songs. Like for this next album, I've been making songs since after Marble drop, like March, April, and I've went from 30 to now 8. And so I will like make songs, like a whole bunch of songs in a row. And then one by one, the ones that don't stand the test of time, after 8 months, if I get sick of them, or if I feel that they're not up to the cut, they will slowly drop. And then the final will make it into the cut.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll let you get out of here soon, but before we do, I saw, it's kind of related, I saw you tweeted, like after this next single, which was Be Flush, my sound's going to change drastically. So I'm curious sort of if you want to explain that and sort of explain what you have coming up. You say you're in album mode, if you want to go in on that further.
Yeah, I think that, my fans are really used to catchy choruses and, a sort of light, fluffy version of myself as far as I'm concerned. And I think, this next sound is a lot more aggressive, even past these singles, probably a little more aggressive to some certain extent. It's darker and it's more experimental. So I'm a little afraid personally, if I can be honest, because I don't want to disappoint people. At the same time, I don't want to do an injustice to myself, just like what we were just talking about,
mm-hmm.
about, appealing, not doing stuff that I want to actually do. So it's a real risk, and I feel like I'm going to be shooting in the dark with this one. So, keep my fingers crossed and hope that it works out.
Are you handling the production? Is it sort of similar to Marble in that way, or how are you constructing this one?
Yeah, I'm handling the production, but I've got, I bring in people from outside to do a lot of stuff for it, like guitar. I'll play all the guitar and bass parts, and then I'll get people who have been playing these instruments since they were like babies to like do the parts, because what do I know,
mm-hmm.
So I get, trumpet, and like I got harmonica, I got all these violin, all these people that play these instruments to come and play the parts for me. But yeah, I'm handling most of the music direction, production.
Yeah, and then I just had a quick question kind of about, because so you've traveled a lot and you've lived in a lot of different places your whole life. Where did you, where particularly did you get your influence from for your music? Like in what area of your life and what place that you lived?
I think it's difficult to say, really. That's always a tough question, because I always listened to American music growing up, regardless of where I was. And the only way I know how to, even say a relative answer to this is that the only thing constant in my life was music. Because everything else was constantly changing. My friends were changing, my environment was changing, my schools were changing. And so the only thing I had was really music. Most of the influence and inspiration for my music is music that I grew up and still listen to this day, which is mainly like a lot of like rock music and a lot of straight hip hop music. So I try to like blend the two. That's mostly where my like, so to speak, cultural influence comes from. And it was mostly American music. I mean, all my friends were American. That's why I sound like this too. I wasn't just, you know, talking like a white person in India. I just, you know, I started watching a lot of Cartoon Network and hung out with a lot of my American and English friends and just developed this version of myself.
What was your favorite Cartoon Network show?
Good one. Between Ed, Edd and Eddy and probably Cow and Chicken, it's a hard pick.
Oh man, I haven't thought about Cow and Chicken in like a decade. Woo!
Yeah, I know. I think that one is really like underrated. I would say that's a heavily underrated cartoon. It always made me laugh. Courage, obviously, I love, and not gonna front. Powerpuff Girls goes hard.
Yeah, Powerpuff Girls is great. I think I think my biggest one was Dexter's Lab, though.
Was what, Dexter's Lab?
Yeah.
Yeah, great one. Used to watch it with my dad all the time. My dad loved that shit.
That's why I can't wait to be a dad, is because like I can now watch all these kids shows without feeling guilty.
I can't wait to show my kids like the golden age of cartoons.
All right, man. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll let you get out of here soon, but we got 3 random questions for you. First, you're stopped at a gas station. What are you picking up?
Gatorade Lime Lemon.
Okay. You're stuck on an elevator with one person. Who would you most like that person to be? And then it's kind of a 2-parter. Who is the person you would least like to be stuck on that elevator with?
Most likely for that person to be would probably be like Lupe Fiasco. That'd be dope. Or Jay-Z. Least likely person, just because it's in current news and I started watching, probably R. Kelly.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be good. And last, I know you're kind of like a hip hop head. You know, like I know you talk about samples a lot. I'm curious, your favorite sample of all time.
Favorite sample of all time? Wow. Probably the sample of Steely Dan that Kanye West used for Champion on his album Graduation. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's like a really chopped, like, I don't know what the song's called, but it's like on purpose, like a terrible chop of the sample, but it sounds so good on beat.
Awesome, man. Well,
like a really use of it.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We're looking forward to what you got coming up in 2019. And yeah, we'll keep sharing, keep supporting, and appreciate your time.
Hell yeah, man. Much love, guys. Appreciate it.
You're locked into Independent Grind on Dash Radio. Tune in Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern for the latest hip-hop news, music, and interviews. Independent Grind only on Dash Radio, baby. Tech 9!
This is the genius, Chris Calico.
Cali, baby!
Letting you know you're tuned into Tech 9's Independent Grind on Dash Radio.